Well, hello, my name is Andrew Parrish.
And I'm Charlotte Herring, and you're watching Cooking with
Andrew
and Charlotte.
Today we'll be showing you how to cook Julia Child's most famous recipe, Boeuf Bourgoneon, from her 40th anniversary edition, Mastering the Art of French Cooking.
Yeah, Julia was pretty into the boeuf. She even devoted an entire chapter to both choosing and preparing the right dishes. The translation of the dish, Boeuf Bourguignon in English, is beef cooked in wine with bacon and mushrooms.
Alright, Charlotte, let's get started.
Alright, what do we need?
Well, the first step to cooking is to always make sure that you have the ingredients and supplies for the recipe.
Well, duh, I know that. I meant, what does the recipe call for?
If you are preparing the dish for 6 people as the recipe calls for, you will need the following items. 1 sliced carrot, 1 sliced onion, 1 tablespoon olive oil, a 6-ounce chunk of bacon, 3 pounds of lean stewing beef, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 2 tablespoons of flour, 3 cups of a full-bodied wine.
But if you're attempting to cook this by yourself, make sure you ask your parents first. We wouldn't want them wondering where the wine went. Why?
Alcoholic.
1 tablespoon of tomato paste, 2 to 3 cups of brown beef stock, 2 cloves of mashed garlic, half a teaspoon of thyme, 18 to 24 white onions, 1 pound of quartered fresh mushrooms.
Oh, and you also need a 9 to 10 inch thick casserole dish and a slotted spoon.
Hey, I was getting to that! But if you don't have the casserole, you can always use a metal pot and a spoon like this one.
I'm sorry, but you were moving too slow. Anywho, we need to preheat the oven to 450 degrees.
I can do that!
While Charlotte does that, I'm going to cut the bacon into 1/4 inch slices.
I did it! So what you doing?
I'm cutting the beef. If you want to make yourself useful, you can get a pot and fill it with water so we can simmer the bacon.
I'm putting about 1.5 quarts of water in the pot, and then we're going to simmer both the bacon and the rind in it for 10 minutes.
Here comes the bacon. Now, when the bacon is done simmering, we are going to drain it and then dry it. Charlotte, do you think you can handle this?
Yes, Andrew, I think I can handle it.
Good.
Now I'm going to drain the excess water off of the bacon and then dry it on this paper towel.
While Charlotte is doing that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil to this pan so we can begin sauteing the bacon.
I did it! Now what do I do with these bad boys?
We're going to add the bacon into the pot, and then we're going to go and put it on the stove.
Sounds good to me.
After about 2 to 3 minutes of being over a medium heat, the bacon should be ready to be taken off.
Let me get the slotted spoon so I can take this off the burner.
Charlotte, make sure you keep the casserole dish heated because the fat in the dish needs to be almost smoking before we can add the beef. Now that the beef is all cut up, we are going to dry it so when we simmer it, it will brown.
Andrew, you're so slow. I just want to make the boeuf.
I'm working on it. Are you happy now?
Well, now that you're adding beef to the casserole dish sauté I am. But don't add too many pieces at once because if you want it to be nicely brown, the way the recipe calls for it, we can only have a few pieces in the hot oil at a time. I'm adding the already cooked meat to the already cooked bacon while Andrew adds more meat to be cooked. Pretty sure Andrew can handle the beef by himself, so I'm going to cut up the onions and the carrots so we can saute them in the oil as well.
How's it going over there?
Pretty well. How's the beef doing?
It's fine, thanks. I'm ready for the carrot and onion.
Here we go.
Well, I'm going to go dump this out now.
You do that, Andrew.
And bring the beef and bacon along with you.
Man, you are demanding. You can at least throw a please in there somewhere.
It doesn't say be polite in the recipe. Now dump that in there and I'll add the salt and the pepper.
You said to dump it, so I dumped it.
Well, you should have done it neater.
Well, how to use this? I was going to use my hands. And
Use a spoon.
Oh, eat me.
I'm going to add some salt.
Is this filming?
I'm sprinkling the salt and the pepper.
Oh, you have to do it with your hands.
I already did it, okay? You don't want to over salt things or else it gets all blah.
That is definitely not quarter of a teaspoon.
Shut your mouth.
No, I will not.
Yes, you will. What are you doing? You're destroying it. I'm going to start lightly sprinkling the flour onto the bacon and beef while I lightly toss that with this spoon. And we're tossing. Starting to look delicious.
So what's next, Andrew?
Well, since the beef and the bacon are now coated in flour, we're going to start cooking. Now we're going to cook this in the exact center of the oven for about 4 minutes. And after those 4 minutes, we're going to remove it and we're going to retoss the bacon and the beef for another 4 minutes.
If the flour starts to turn brown and the meat has a light crust, you know you're doing this right.
After both sets of 4 minutes, we're going to remove the dish and turn the oven down to 325 degrees. Now it's time for the wine.
My favorite part.
Told you were an alcoholic. Now, anyway, we're going to stir in about 3 cups of the wine, and we're going to make sure that it just barely covers the beef and the bacon. You make one in there. And next I'm going to add a little bit of beef stock to the mix. Now, once we're done with this, we're going to move on to the tomato paste, the garlic, the herbs.
Let's take this bad boy over the stove to simmer up.
Just be careful not to drop it.
Just be careful not to drop it. I'm not going to drop it. Once the dish is simmered, it's time to cover it up and throw it back in the oven.
This time we're going to put the casserole dish on the lower third of the oven so that it can be closer to the heat.
Now what?
Now we wait about 2.5 to about 3 hours, regulating the heat so it simmers, so the liquid simmers slowly. And right after that, after the 2.5 to 3 hours, we're going to try to pierce some of the meat to see if a fork will go into it slowly.
And while the meat's cooking, we can work on the onions and the mushrooms.
Okay, so into this skillet, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Next, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. When the butter and the oil are bubbling, add the onions and saute over a medium heat for about 10 minutes. You need to continuously roll the onions so they brown evenly. However, you don't want to break the skin, so make sure you're careful. Next, I'm going to pour in 1/2 cup of brown stock. I'm going to cover and simmer the onions for 40 to 50 minutes until the onions are tendered. Still have their shape and all the liquid has evaporated. When they are finished, I will set them aside until we are ready to put them in the Beouf.
Now for the mushrooms. To saute the mushrooms, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of oil, a skillet, and a whole pound of fresh mushrooms. To prep the mushrooms, they must be washed, diced, dried, and if whole, sliced or quartered. Put the skillet on high heat with the butter and oil. When the butter begins to subside, it is time to add the mushrooms. Toss and shake the pan for 4 to 5 minutes. While the mushrooms are sauteing, they will absorb all the fat. After 2 to 3 minutes, the fat will appear on the surface and you'll start to see them brown. When the color of all the mushrooms is light brown, it's time to remove them from the heat. Once they are done, these two will be set aside until they are ready to be added to the beef. I believe it's already been 3 hours.
I know, time flies when you're having fun.
we check on the beef now? Please, 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 please.
I think it's time.
Woo!
It looks delicious.
Yes, it does.
Now poke a piece of meat and see if it's tender.
It is.
Okay. Now that the meat is tender, I'm going to pour all of the contents from the pan through this sieve to separate the meat from the sauce. Charlotte,
Yes.
do you want to get the holy spoon over here behind me
Yeah, sure.
and come around? And push it against that bottom part there.
Teamwork. Oh, hey, we have to add the onions and the mushrooms too. We can't forget to add those.
Oh, what would I do without you, Charlotte?
Like I said, you would be pantsless in the street. Holy, this is really heavy.
Would you like me to hold this
Yes.
here? Let me hold this for you since you helped me over the sink.
Thank you, Andrew. What would I
You're
do?
welcome.
What would I do without your strength?
I don't know. I don't really think there is any strength there.
And finally, the onions. I can do this one.
My favorite.
He likes the pearl onions. And now we mix.
And now we mix. And you're mixing.
And we're mixing.
Which is good.
And we're mixing.
Make sure it's evenly spread around.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We are mixing.
Looks delicious.
Yes, it does. Nom 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 nom.
Wow. And now we re-add the sauce to the concoction. That looks so delicious. And we're adding. And stir it around.
Alrighty.
Now the thickness of the sauce is very important to this dish. If the sauce is too thin, you might want to consider boiling it down. But if it's too thick, you might want to consider adding some extra tablespoons of beef stock.
And it's really important to taste the sauce so you can make sure it's seasoned correctly and that it tastes good. You know, it can really ruin the sauce if you don't.
Let's try it. That is delicious.
Is it good?
It is. Now, this is where the dish can be altered, where you could either serve it now if you wanted to, or later. Now, if you choose to serve it now, we suggest that you recover the pot and simmer it for about 2 to 3 minutes while occasionally rebasting the top layer of vegetables and meats.
If you want to serve it a little bit later, cover it and refrigerate until you're ready. Then about 15 to 20 minutes before serving, bring it to a simmer, cover, and simmer again for 10 minutes. Ta-da!
And that is our Bourgoneon. Well, that was fun.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. I'm Andrew Parrish.
And I'm Charlotte Herring. And you're watching
Cooking with Andrew and Charlotte. And, as our famous cook of the evening
Surely a child.
always says, bon
Bon
appetit.
appetit.